Handsome Hockey Podcast. 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 Handsome Hockey Podcast.
Handsome Hockey Podcast.
Some people came prepared for that game and others did not. And my favorite sign was the sign that just said, "I'm cold."
Laszlo Holmes reporting from Minnesota.
Well, in case you haven't realized, we are back. We are here for episode 52. This is the Handsome Hockey Podcast. My name is Jake and I am with Evan.
Yeah, Evan. Here across from you in lovely, rainy Portland, Oregon.
So hockey.
So the World Championships of U18 hockey were held in Red Deer, Canada. It's like one of those names that Pierre Maguire just like shouts out. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, Red Deer. Like, where did that come from? Why are you shouting this into my hockey game? I don't know.
I'm glad you know that. I didn't need to.
Sure.
Thanks,
and
Pierre.
like you don't even know what player he's talking about.
Yeah.
Last year, they did all sorts of kind of COVID things to make sure that this tournament happened.
One of the tournaments.
Yeah.
The men's tournament.
Correct. Yeah. In this year, they canceled the women's tournament yet again, to much chagrin. Complete bullshit. Like, every kind of Chad and Chungus on the internet is like, oh yeah, the men make money and the women don't. It's like, who cares? Like, we're trying, part of the reason that this tournament happens is to grow the game and to grow the women's game so that the women's game may make money for all of the teams and schools and whatever with the kind of player base that this tournament helps build. And, that the men's tournament 2 years running has been at least attempted, while the women's tournament has been canceled for quote unquote safety, is utter horseshit.
On a certain level, I'm kind of proud of the IAHF for just like clearly not giving a fuck. Like, right. No, we don't care about the women's game. Here, let us show you. Like,
how impressed in the transparency of their trolling.
Yeah, it's just so blatant and painful.
I hope maybe this costs some jobs or some shit. I don't know. That's maybe optimistic, but
no, it won't. I mean,
yeah, it's an absolute travesty. The only silver lining is that the women were saved from the utter disgrace of showing up to fucking Red Deer and having zero precautions taken to have the tournament occur and ultimately having the tournament canceled. After all the practices, flying all the way, all of the undertaking that it takes to get from Finland or Germany to fucking Red Deer.
This tournament should have never happened if, one, the women's tournament isn't going to happen, and two, you're not going to actually try any means of stopping the virus that is killing millions of people worldwide. Like,
right.
There were no precautions whatsoever. They're like, oh, hey, Owen Power. So what did you think about the precautions for the World Juniors? The what?
The who?
That didn't actually happen. But like, it was just so absurd. Like, what really sucks about this is we're being robbed of a lot of really important hockey for young women and men. Like, these are the tournaments that catapult people to stardom at a young age. These are the tournaments where, especially for like the first time players, they can really see how they stack up against their age group. Because in a lot of times, like, you've got Simon Edvinsson who's playing against adult men in Sweden. And then you're like, well, let's see how he does against his age group. And he comes in and he has like 2 goals and an assist in his first game. And you're like, oh shit, he might be really good. Let's see how he does for the rest of the tournament. What rest of the tournament?
And it was canceled particularly quickly after they had something like 4 cases crop up. And there's like, nope, not going to do it.
Yeah.
And it turns out, no planning went into separating these players in any meaningful capacity, especially compared to last year when they did sort of like the best bubble that junior hockey could offer. They stayed in a hotel that had a wedding at it, and there were no separations from the public to the players in a, let's say, largely unvaccinated background culturally.
And let's just say, for example, say a man like Red Savage, which is one of the best names in hockey. He's a Red Wings draft pick. He played on the American team. Let's say he just decides to crash that wedding, hang out, flirt with a bridesmaid, party, get COVID. The fact that like the IIHF couldn't even get their own hotel, like just show like it's not about pull. It's hockey in Canada.
Yeah.
If the IIHF wanted to, they could be like, no, this is our hotel, cancel everything. And the hotel would have been like, yeah. Or, oh, yeah, buddy, we'll definitely do that for you. Like, hockey has pull in Canada, and they could have absolutely done whatever they wanted in Red Deer fucking Canada to get, like, and that's no disrespect to Red Deer, but I'm guessing the biggest thing going there is probably the fucking World Juniors.
Yeah, for Red Deer, like, probably cost them a considerable amount of money. Like, I'm sure the hotel is probably not making what it would make otherwise. And, I'm sure all of the kind of travel and, food and beverage costs that they would have otherwise rung up have been cut. The German team took a sad mid-ice photo to kind of cap the end of their junior team experience there. A Finnish player spoke out about how there was zero precautions and kind of, poor planning on the count of the IHF. But my favorite tidbit is that Russian players and coaches were kicked off their flight home for smoking and vaping and not wearing masks. Like, is there anything more just perfectly Russian? Like, oh, we thought Trump took care of this.
Yeah, they're like, shit, are we in Canada? Yeah, that was like a French. Now my accents have devolved into nothingness. Yeah,
you could be a multinational.
That was very much a look at this fucking Russian moment. Like nothing says Russian like smoking and vaping on a plane and getting kicked off. You
and like it was it wasn't like the coaches were smoking and the kids were vaping. No, the kids were smoking and the coaches were vaping.
Yeah, it was classy vaping, though.
Right.
Said nobody ever.
Honestly, shit's probably purifying the air on the plane. Speaking of things that can annoy you on planes, COVID has run rampant through the league. Several teams have had to cancel entire trips. Basically, Canada and the US are sheltering in place and not playing each other. Holidays sometimes can be crazy like that, but with COVID
holidays.
It's been a holiday.
Like the Green Day song or the Weezer song, or if you want to go like recent vintage, the Turnstile song.
NHL, so let's just go straight down the middle with Green Day.
Yeah, Green Day, yeah.
They fucking love them some Green Day, don't they? They play the Winter Classic almost as much as the Blackhawks do.
They're playing like that and shipping up to Boston, like just, and it's like, why are you playing that in San Jose? Like, stop it. Every one of our Boston friend fans just said, nope, I'm never listening to this fucking podcast again.
I would guess that they're sick of it too. Like,
it's a terrible fucking song.
Chicago fans are like, well, maybe used to like the Fratellis, but no, no more.
Anyway, so COVID has like torn the league asunder. They didn't play most of the week of Christmas. They are still missing tons of games. Like just yesterday, they were like, we have 3 games on the deck. We have 1 game, and like probably the best player on both of these teams isn't playing because of COVID. Well, fuck. All right. Well, good luck, Artemi. Artemi Panarin just can't catch a break.
The most recent news is that Connor McDavid has COVID. Connor McJesus, maybe not as much of a deity as we like to think he is.
Of course, the week after I play him in fantasy.
Yeah, convenient like that. Yeah. It's sort of like the Chuck Norris situation where he doesn't have COVID. COVID has Connor McDavid.
It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. We're in a way, we're sitting kind of in like a 2021 or 2020 season sphere. Like, how are we going to end this season? Is everybody going to play every game? Are we going to have 32 teams in the playoffs? Like what's going to happen here? I'm not entirely sure how this plays out.
Neither is Edmonton. I wasn't even done there. Like, Connor McDavid catching COVID comes on the heels of the team slumping. And
they're terrible right now.
Right. They cannot win to save their life. And they have the two best players in the world on their team.
It turns out when you don't have any goalies, though, you're bad.
Very, very bad. Mike Smith, too old, too broken. Mikko Koskinen.
Who could have seen that coming?
Not I.
Everyone.
Not I, who definitely did not draft him in fantasy.
Ken Holland loves him.
Yeah, and so
some over-the-hill players.
Is this...
He'd re-sign Chris Chelios right fucking now if he could.
Well, so the word on the street is, would he then jettison the coach for his buddy who's not too far away, Mike Babcock? Like, could this Connor McDavid catching COVID thing and, now you have half of a quarter of a team. Could this be the thing that really sends them down the hill to fire everybody and bring in everybody's favorite hockey coach?
It would be just the icing on the cake of the Hollandization of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah,
if they hired a coach who is like completely ill-equipped to coach a team full of offensive talent with no defensive talent whatsoever.
Yeah, and it had its defensive talent just gutted by the GM.
So here's where I stand on this. Part of me wants Connor McDavid to succeed because he is incredible.
Good
as
for the
is
game.
Leon Draisaitl, yeah.
Good for the game.
It's very good for the game, and also, like, I just feel bad for the guy. He's like the most prodigal talent in the last 15 years, and he's stuck in fucking Edmonton.
Well, he is prodigal, and he is a prodigal in a way.
It's not like, that's not me shitting on Edmonton as a city. That's me shitting on Edmonton as a team franchise.
Yeah, as a front office. They're squandering the two best players around they're like a barely in the playoffs team year after year after year with, arguably the two best players in the world.
Because you can't sign a fucking goalie. Like, Jesus Christ.
And they also have a young goalie with like a .917 save percentage that they just sent down to the AHL.
Because they got to play Mike fucking Smith.
They got to play them old bones, baby.
I think they're really just waiting for his hip to break so they can just be like, oh, well, we got to shoot him like a dead horse, like on the ice. Like,
hey, I got a joke for you.
They'll put a tent up around him and you'll hear like, and like they'll be like, we regret to inform you that Mike Smith was put down on the ice.
That's how goalies do,
like
man.
8 bells.
Yeah.
What's the joke?
Oh, how did the Oilers recall Stuart Skinner from the AHL?
Stuart! Oh, God damn it. Stuart! You could go Stuart in a couple of different ways. Like, you could go Letterkenny, you could go Mad TV.
I always go Mad TV.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm in my 30s, but...
Let's just move on from COVID, honestly. Like, we all know it's like the shittiest thing, and it's hitting the NHL harder than it is any other sport.
Let's take care of the other shitty thing.
Yeah,
which is happening in Calgary, Alberta, not too far away. Their team is at odds with the city about a previously agreed upon stadium and entertainment district renovation. The costs have gone up, partially because the city really needs to solve the random flooding that happens around there that actually displaced the team from the Saddle Dome at one point. But the costs have gone up, just like every other costing construction these days. Like
it
sucks. It sucks to plan construction projects right now, especially really big infrastructure ones.
Yeah. It's the cost of wood is through the roof right now.
Yeah.
Beef, wood, and steel. It's through the roof.
And so, the guy who has a lot of beef, wood, and steel, the billionaire owner,
I thought you were going to say me. Damn. I'm sorry. That joke sucks.
No, I thought that was hilarious.
I'm sorry. I completely ruined where you're going with this. Please continue.
Because that was funny. So the guy who has a lot of beef, wood, and steel, the billionaire owner, has balked over maybe the most minor cost increase that he's had to face so far, which is something like the last one was like $9.7 million is the latest kind of cost increase that city and them agreed on a deal to kind of share costs in a specific way. And, I think just the billionaire owner has to kind of front this additional money. This is approximately the same amount of money that they have paid Troy Brouwer to play like shit for them for a little bit. And then again, that they are paid Troy Brouwer to not play for them. I'm going to give you $9 million to fuck off kind of situation. And that's the difference in their stadium deal.
They're giving him $9 million to go hang out in Red Deer.
Yeah. Is that where they're...
Nah, I don't know. Yeah.
Troy Brouwer, patient zero. No. But
he showed up and the thing shut down.
Yeah, it was his kid's wedding.
This sucks for Calgary. They're not going. The Flames aren't going anywhere. Like, let's
be real. Where would they go? Back to Atlanta?
How many times has that experiment failed? Several.
I mean, maybe the NHL wants to try it a third time. Let's try and stick a hockey team in Atlanta.
Arizona and Calgary will duke it out for who gets to go to Houston. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. This sucks for Calgary. Like, it sucks in the same way that like the Oakland A's are. To be fair, the Coliseum sucks. Like, it's a shit heap.
Oakland actually, like, that's more of a problem. Like, the Calgary Flames are the only real professional sports franchise in that.
How dare you talk that way about the Stampeders?
Right. That's why I went with real.
Yeah.
And
Fair.
The biggest show in the region. So yeah, they're not going anywhere. They had a deal before. Some people have talked about, maybe there is another business problem going on because a lot of people have business problems. And this is a large, complicated project with a lot of partners. Like, I think there's maybe more to it than just this relatively small percentage gap that could be footed by the owner pretty easily. But yeah, the team had a vested interest in the mayor that did not win election. And the mayor that has won election has played pretty solid hardball against the team. Like, you talk about mayors versus sports teams with an adversarial relationship, and like St. Louis mayor about to call her up.
Yeah, this is awesome because history shows that sports teams actually kind of don't benefit the local population or the local businesses, like, except for like this very small section of them right around the arena.
Yeah, and
it doesn't bring businesses and wealth into the city. It brings businesses and it brings wealth into the owner and like three other people.
Yeah, the three people he brings in to develop the place around him. Yeah.
Same thing happened with the Red Wings and Little Caesars Arena. Yeah. Like, it's all Illich Holdings, and they're like, oh, we're going to bring so many jobs. And it's like, yeah, but it's still all going to the Illiches.
Right.
And God bless the Illiches because, they spend lots of money on the Red Wings every year. But like, still, like, they built the city of Detroit for like $300 million on Little Caesars Arena. And it's just like, come on. Yeah.
These teams get sweetheart deals from these cities. And, the city's the one that ends up suffering and actually like having to foot the bill, continuously. Like, the city is actually who is on the hook to fix the Saddle Dome for something like $80 to $100 million. So that's part of the reason that they're trying to redevelop this area. And they're trying to, fix some infrastructure problems. Like, this is a very complicated project with a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders. The team is just one of them, and the city is fronting a lot of money because they're requiring a lot of the team. But yeah, to have it fall apart over a relatively small rounding error of amount of money for a billionaire owner that like apparently doesn't even live in Calgary anymore, like lives like in Europe somewhere.
Well, I mean, if you could live anywhere.
Yeah.
I hear Denmark's nice.
Right. I think it's Italy, but...
I wouldn't know.
I don't know. You know, it's a dream to have
you
an Italian
see an
villa.
aqueduct anywhere.
I mean, I would prefer Red Deer over an Italian villa, but...
As somebody who grew up in Michigan, in small town Michigan, I probably would too.
So here we have two kind of karmic reactions, like teams that did kind of good, smart, bold things, and then were rewarded by the hockey gods. First thing Minnesota did is they extended their coach Dallas Eakins and his staff multi-year contracts. By all counts, good move, good coach. Yeah. Team is competing very well, and is at the upper echelon of the league. Whereas just a couple years before, they were kind of middling and not nearly very good. So, big props to what he has done there, and smart by the ownership and front office to extend them. And the karmic reaction to that is they got a sweet Winter Classic that was like quintessentially Minnesota for like people that, have never been and were just like watching on TV. Like, this is what they imagine. Like hockey, there's probably some ice fishing. You need a warming shelter to fucking stay alive.
It was too cold for ice.
Yeah. Like they literally had to heat the ice because, as we all learned, ice gets too brittle at too cold temperatures and you can't skate on it very well. You stop and like whole like chunks of it come apart. Like it would be an absolute mess. So it was -8 at one point, which was good for the NHL's coldest game.
For those of us who for our listeners who have, most of our listeners are in the Portland metro area, and most of them grew up in the Portland metro area.
They have yet to experience such cold.
For those of you who have not experienced -8, you know what that does to you? It fucking kills you.
I think Leonardo DiCaprio in the Titanic was, so immured with the cold.
It's terrible.
It's like when there's YouTube and TikTok videos of people chucking pots of boiling water off of their balconies and it's like frozen on the way down.
It freezes in like mid-flight. Yeah. So when I was a kid, my school district refused to close school unless it was below 0.
Okay.
And one, because our school superintendent was a sadist.
Ours had to incorporate wind chill, and it was like -15.
Yeah, ours was 0 with no wind chill.
Yeah,
like not counting wind chill. And so with like it's like 2 degrees out, and my brother and I are standing out waiting for the bus for a half hour because it's a rural school district, and some people wait for the bus for 45 fucking minutes.
And surprise, it was too cold for the bus, and the bus broke down.
Surprise, -8 degrees is stupidly cold. Like there's like, if you are comfortable in that, you're a psychopath. Like,
and props to, and supposedly some detriment to the Minnesotans who braved the cold at, I believe it was Target Field to watch the game. They were mostly, done up in the warmest ski gear and snow sports gear that they had. There were a lot of ski goggles, I'm sure a lot of flasks, and I'm sure a lot of people had antifreeze running through their veins. I'm willing to
bet
that
bleach.
Right. I'm willing to bet that the only sober people were the players on the ice. Like
that might be giving them credit. I don't know. You see how many goals were scored?
Yeah. And it was kind of a boring game in that St. Louis just took a commanding lead and then Minnesota scored some goals to make it interesting. Minnesota down 6-4 ended up pulling their goalie with 8 minutes left. Like, All right, that's a bold move, Cotton. See how it works for you.
It didn't.
So, yeah, narrator, it did not. The Blues had an awesome karmic retribution of their own in that they showed up in beach clothing, and one player even had like a short sleeve shirt that was undone. It must have been the shortest entrance walk ever. Like they probably like in the video, they probably walked 10 feet and had like, or a bus on either side of them, but they had the fun and they came out and won the game. And it's hard not to see the two as somehow connected.
One of my favorite stories of this is that apparently Jordan Bennington wanted to push a lumberjack theme on the St. Louis Blues and went out and bought a bunch of lumberjack attire. And the team said, no, we're doing beach. And so he had like dozens of lumberjack shirts in very large sizes.
Yeah,
that he was trying to give away.
Rumor has it that he actually had them on board with the lumberjack thing until he showed them the Monty Python lumberjack video, which was his inspiration for it. And it's just a veiled joke about cross-dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, beach theme.
Also, I don't think anybody likes Jordan Bennington.
That's the impression that I get.
Yeah. Thanks, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. And wow, I have dated myself.
But yeah, how could you tell guy who swings stick at players on the ice?
I think Jordan Bennington is the real Brendan Lemieux.
Ooh, all right.
Like Brady Tkachuk was actually talking about Jordan Bennington, but he had to, his ire was spent towards the man who had bitten his hands.
I think Jordan Bennington is actually sort of good-ish
at hockey.
Sometimes
he's acceptably good.
Yeah,
he's overpaid.
That'll happen when you win a Stanley Cup as a rookie.
A 37-year-old rookie.
He's easily one of the bigger piss babies in the league, which is, I mean, I think the first time I heard you say piss baby was talking about Jordan Bennington, and like I just can't unattach that term.
Piss baby is a very good term.
Yeah.
And it very accurately describes Jordan Bennington. And you know what? He's a heck of a goaltender. He's quite good. He's probably overpaid, but I think most goalies are overpaid. Yeah, he's a piss baby.
And he pissed away some money on some plaid.
Yeah. Good luck selling or taking those to Goodwill.
My favorite random bit from the Winter Classic was when Kirill Kaprizov picked up a water bottle and went to drink from it, and it was frozen. Like, he just like shakes it, looks at it. He's Russian. He knows the drill. Like,
he was like, I've been here before.
Yeah. He was just like, he makes this sad face and like puts it back.
He's like, oh, reminds me of team trip to Vladivostok. And just like tosses it on the ground and like kills a rodent.
Yeah. I mean, if a rodent could survive in that kind of environment.
Rodents survive everything.
This is true. I love just like the technical angle of what it took to bring the game together. So the optimal ice surface for hockey is between 22 and 24 degrees. And so on these sorts of like mobile rink applications, they have a glycol that's pumped through like an aluminum heat exchanger below the ice. And so generally that's to make it as cold as possible. But in this time, like they're actually like actively warming the rink from beneath after covering it with warming blankets up until game time, like your grandmother on a cold night. I don't know. I love it.
It's like in the olden days where you used to like heat rocks in the fire before you went on a sleigh ride and you'd put your feet on them.
Well, I just think of like grandma in a, drafty ass old farmhouse with a electric blanket.
This is like the Americans at Valley Forge cold. Like,
yeah. But it's so like quintessentially Midwest. Like this is like the cold in which like most of the plot of Fargo takes place.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have a joke to follow that up. That was good. Like at some point somebody put Jonas Brodin through a wood chipper. Like, okay, I did have a joke to follow that up. Okay.
I like it. So apparently the Minnesota Wild crossed state and ethical boundaries in order to consult with none other than the Green Bay Packers I'm sure that riled some feathers in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. But
the entire Midwest.
But the Packers, who have, one of the more seasoned outdoor stadium crews in the NFL and in all of sports, advise them on
not doing it.
Advise them on like this like special skin ointment. It's just like, I think maybe some people just use like Vaseline to protect their skin.
Yeah.
Other people use different lotions and stuff, but they, gave recommendations on that and, other ways to kind of warm equipment, keep things from getting too brittle and then breaking is kind of the name of the game. And Americans, we can't agree on much, but we can come together across state and fanship boundaries.
I have two comments about this. One is if you're not familiar with like the AFC or the NFC North, there are Packer fans and then there are everybody who hates the Packers. And it's not so much because they win a lot. It's mostly because they're fucking jerks. They're like, we own the team. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. It's like you have 6 guys own 90% of the team. You own like 0.5 of a percentile of the team. Eat balls.
You have a decoration piece of stock.
Yeah, that's fucking quaint.
I mean, it is kind of a nice gesture.
I do appreciate the Green Bay Packers because there's no way in hell a professional sports team could start in Green Bay, Wisconsin at this day and age. Like there's just no way.
It's also the closest a lot of conservative Green Bay fans get to socialism. And
true,
so you can kind of...
They're like, I own part of this. I am part of the ownership. And I'm like, with socialism, everybody's an owner. Fuck you! I'm selling my share. When are you going to get $4? Cool.
I own part of the football means to production. One of the other interesting subplots of the Winter Classic was the jerseys. Minnesota came out with their jerseys a while back, and everyone kind of panned them. It looked really kind of kitschy and focus group history, kind of like they did like a fake old timey get up with kind of
kitschy is the best way to put it.
Yeah, brown leather details, fake leather kind of color details.
I remembered. Sorry.
Go. Okay.
Yeah. But this also reminds me of, we were talking in one of our really early episodes about like the longest pond hockey game that keeps going and how it got so cold that like the goalies' pads were breaking when they'd stop shots. Mm-hmm. That shit could have happened in this game. Thankfully, it didn't. I love that the goalies wear hats on top of their... But it's like, that shouldn't have to happen. And
well, Cam Talbot wore a hat. Bennington did not. Which is further...
Because he was wearing lumberjack attire.
No, it further shows that he's a psychopath. But yeah, the goalie helmets, like, there's no insulation in those fucking things.
At all.
They're carbon fiber and fiberglass and then nothing is, very little padding because they're custom fit. So, I'm sure that hat had some function to it.
Oh, absolutely. You see them in almost every one of these games, except for the Tahoe games where the damn thing almost melted. Or did melt. Like they're always wearing the stocking caps over their goalie helmets. And then, honestly, that might be my favorite thing about every Winter Classic.
Yeah. COVID Winter Classics, a story of fire and ice. First, we can't figure out the sun, and then we get
and then we really need it.
Yeah. So,
jerseys.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts was the jerseys. When Minnesota unveiled theirs, sort of historically informed and kind of throwback jersey, it looked pretty kitschy. It got kind of panned. It has sort of like fake brown spots and pants that are supposed to resemble leather. And when it came out, it looked dumb. But my unpopular opinion is that on TV, it looked kind of sweet. The one fuck up was that they tried to do like English professor elbow patches, but they like misplaced them, and so the elbow patch, like, it wasn't on the elbow, it was like above the elbow.
They didn't take into account elbow pads,
right? Yeah. And I think that's, as an architect and designer, like, I think that's really interesting how they kind of these giant sleeves.
Oops. Unless they're tweed, I don't want elbow patches.
And but I thought, on the ice, in the insanely cold conditions, like it ended up working out, and they kind of felt like they had a place. The other weird thing is they put like fake plywood on the back of the rink, which is made of, I don't know, I think like
plastic. I don't know.
Plexiglass and metal, I think. They put like a fake wood print on it to make it look more homely. The Blues jerseys were fucking incredible. Like they look like the NHL version of the LA Chargers jerseys, you know, just powder blue and yellow. You can just take a powder blue and yellow color scheme and just inject it into my veins. Like, I'm such a sucker for it. Powder blue and yellow, you really can't go wrong with as a designer somehow.
Yeah. First off, the Chargers jerseys are amongst the best in sports.
Yeah, ever since they like ditched the dark navy Ladainian Tomlinson era, which
like is one of their best eras, but like those the Junior Seau era, like,
but yeah, ever since they've come into the modern era,
they've
been so good,
fucking gorgeous.
And so like the Blues should just go with these jerseys.
Yeah, the Blues jerseys were fucking amazing, and they should just be powder blue forever. Second karmic reaction.
Yeah, the Canucks finally got up the guts to fire everybody. They fired Coach Travis Green, who by all means was not doing a awful job with what he was given, but he obviously wasn't doing a good job and had lost the room. And they bring in none other than F-bomb dropping Bruce Boudreau. Like,
Bruce Boudreau is not out of place anywhere except for most hockey circles, it turns out. Like,
yeah.
Like the fact that Bruce Boudreau has carved out a career despite the fact that he drops F-bombs wherever the hell he wants. Wherever the fuck he wants.
That's pretty hockey.
But he has a personality. And hockey people don't normally have personalities.
He's an artistry to his F-bombs.
Yes. And like he did it in his opening conference. Like they were the team that most obviously needed to gut their front office and finally did it. Like, how many chances does a guy need to get before you're just like, you know what? This sucks.
Yeah. And they also fired
Jim Benning, or he had as much time on the job as Mark Bergevin and was somehow worse.
Yeah. And, famously had kind of said that, they had like a 5-year plan or something, just like the Senators did.
No, he said 2 year. In 2 years we'll be competitive. And it's like, bitch, you just went to the conference semifinals. What do you mean in 2 years you'll be competitive?
Yeah. And they also, I think I said this back then, but they overachieved making the bubble.
Everybody said this.
And hurt their draft stock. And then instead of continuing what was a solid rebuild, they fucked off, and like the team was just rudderless under Jim Benning. There was
no direction. Like, we're going all in. We're trading for JT Miller. We're we need draft picks. But we're going all in. We're trading for Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Oh wait, also Tyler Toffoli. We're going to bring Tyler Toffoli in and then not offer him a contract after he has a great year for us. Watch him walk. So after having the guts to just gut your front office, fire your coach, they brought in Bruce Boudreau, and they also brought in Jim Rutherford, who is probably too old to be a true GM. So he's going to be the sort of GM pro tempore and bring in a understudy that is going to be like a first time GM. And so they are interviewing for this. And our favorite Italian businessman, Roberto Ruongo, is interviewing. I love it. Love it.
I wonder if they won't have to pay him because they're already paying him $3 million this year.
Right. Like, can we bring you in to work for us for the money we're already paying you?
They're like, we're not going to pay you this year. But next year, when you don't count $3 million against our fucking cap,
are you willing?
We'll pay you that.
Are you willing to do an unpaid internship, Roberto Luongo?
Roberto Ruongo. Italian businessman Roberto Ruongo is my favorite, long running joke of this podcast. It's so good.
So
Their owner probably kind of sucks too.
But yeah, he's like trying but lost. I feel like
he's lost, but like refuses to admit it, and which is a dangerous combination when they're also super rich. Yeah,
standard rich guy behavior.
Yeah, like he's not Elon Musk douchey, but he's also not Elon Musk rich.
Yeah, or Elon Musk creative. Like Elon Musk, I'm plenty critical of him, but he does some interesting things.
Yeah, he's at least interesting. He's a giant piece of shit, but he's, like, at least he's not Jeff Bezos, who is super uninteresting and is also a giant piece of shit. And that's why whenever I make rich guy jokes, I talk about how tasty Jeff Bezos is going to be and not Elon Musk, because like
he just looks like he'd have a nice kind of meat structure.
One of the best memes that has gone around lately was the Jeff Bezos turning into Pitbull meme, which
he kind of is.
Just look it up. It's fucking awesome.
He has become more and more like looking like Pitbull with every passing year. Yeah.
Darling. Pitbull should be suing him for like
for stealing his
infringement.
Image.
Yeah, like he'd be like, if he wasn't pale, you'd think he was me.
Jeff Bezos' next rocket is actually just going to be a Bud Light bottle going into space.
It's Mr. Worldwide.
Turns out Pitbull has actually been to space. He just didn't publicize it.
We have devolved into a Pitbull and Jeff Bezos podcast.
I don't care. So the second bit of karmic reaction to the Canucks having the guts to gut their front office and go with a new coach is they've gone on an epic winning streak and look like a completely different hockey team. It sounds like Bruce Boudreau has complete buy-in and he's getting, really good production from star players after kind of meeting with them and having kind of conferences with them and just saying like, hey, I want you to be you. I want you to play the way you play. I'm not going to stick you in some Tortorellian, sad for hockey system. Like we're going to play up-tempo scoring hockey, and it's worked. And that's been so good.
Unleashing Elias Pettersson. Who knew?
Right.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's looked like the player that he was drafted to be.
I've watched a couple of Vancouver games since Bruce Boudreau took over, and
it's night and day.
They're a completely different team. They actually, like, I don't want to say they didn't give a fuck, because, like, I feel like professional athletes always give a fuck.
Right.
Because they're getting paid gobs of money to do it. And they're like, well, I want to continue to get paid gobs of money to do this, so I'm going to try. But, like, It feels like this is what Vancouver looks like when they try.
Yeah, they were pressing before, and I think
in a system that didn't work for them.
Right. I think similar things were wrong with the Canucks to wrong with the Chicago Blackhawks in that they were in a complicated defensive system and doing more learning and attempted execution than just playing with your gut and just playing hockey. And they've simplified the game, and that's it for both teams is what's brought, success since they've fired and replaced coaches.
Yeah. And it was more baffling from Travis Green, because Travis Green took this team to the conference semifinals by playing that wide open, loose, like, you know what, you might get 48 shots on us tonight, but we've got Jacob Markstrom, so fuck it. Like, let's go.
Right. And Thatcher Demko has been every bit as good as Jacob Markstrom was in that run. But they've just been like clutching their sticks too hard. They've been like playing scared up until they hired Bruce Boudreau. So another piece of karmic retribution that the Canucks received for their boldness is they got an awesome fucking public relations story out of this. A Canucks staffer, equipment manager, guy who works on the bench with his combination of, different equipment managers have different styles. Some of them like look at the play, and some of them like I've seen turned around and they just have like fingers on the sticks of anyone who's like on the ice at that moment. Like, I don't know. It looks very, very stressful. But apparently he had his face turned to the ice for long enough for a fan immediately behind him
in Seattle
to correctly identify a melanoma on his neck. and she wrote on her notes app or something, or wrote a text or something, and put it up to the glass and says, like, you know, this is probably skin cancer. You should get it looked at.
Yeah.
And he went to the doctor and they performed a biopsy, and lo and behold, this was melanoma that was, you know, probably going to be a very bad one, and was caught early on enough where he basically has, you know, I don't think he needs chemo. I think he has like nothing besides the surgery.
So Brian Hamilton is the equipment manager, and Nadia Popovici, and I apologize if I slaughtered any of those names. Nadia was the fan, this Kraken fan who, you know, noticed this while on the ice, or while sitting behind the bench. And like, what a stroke of luck for everybody, right? Like, it's awesome that a trained professional was able to see something and like actually diagnose it.
Yeah. And believe in herself enough to, you know, put that out there and, you know, take the step to say something. That in and of itself to me is like a minor miracle. Like, if I see something at a game like that, like, I don't know, do I have the bravery to like say something, or do I just like succumb to social anxiety and just like say, you know, I probably didn't see what I thought I saw, and you know, maybe not save a life. Like, just an amazing job on her part. And so he put out a statement through the team, and apparently Nadia's mom saw this and identified their season ticket holders for the Kraken. And she is,
which means they have billions of dollars.
Yeah, apparently she is a medical school entrant, will be entering medical school in the next
medical stool.
Medical stool. I mean, she'll be dealing with a lot of stools in medical school. But yeah, it's such an amazing story, such an amazing job. Like, props to her, this guy, for, you know, turning the right way at the right time, her eyes for wandering during a random TV timeout. Like, I don't know, you know, good for hockey to have enough downtime where she notices a mole on somebody's neck.
Everything about this is awesome. You know, one, a life was saved.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
Changed.
And two, like, the Canucks awarded Nadia with a $10,000 scholarship to medical school.
Oh, for real? Fuck yeah.
Which is about like 1/100th of what medical school costs, but like still like it's $10K. Like, that's awesome. Like, it's always kind of a bummer when like billionaires are like, oh, here's $10,000. Like, come on, fucker. Like,
you can at least you can give me 50 in the same breath.
Yeah, but like, still at the same time, it's $10,000 that she doesn't have to pay back, and that's awesome. Like,
same time, I couldn't get a $10,000 raise out of my employer.
I mean, who can? It's a great story. Like, like this is what happens, Vancouver, when you fire Jim Benning. Like,
exactly.
Your equipment manager lives, your team gets exponentially better, and you get a great PR story. So
also imagine
more people should fire Jim Benning.
Imagine the perspective of the equipment manager. Like, you have this sweet, interesting job of dealing with all of the hockey equipment nerd shit and handing sticks to players in an instant. You're just going about your day. You know, you're he's sort of a middle-aged professional guy. And then you just find out, A, you are in mortal danger, and B, somebody saves your life in the same breath. Like, that's crazy.
She's basically Batman.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
That might be the best line in the history of this podcast.
Turns out someone besides Thatcher Demko can do some saving.
Yeah. This is an amazing story, and it was super cool of Vancouver to go all in on like, cause the manager like released a statement basically on Twitter, I think.
No,
and
it was
like
through the team.
But Vancouver was like, no, we're going to publicize this shit.
It was an official team press release.
Yeah. That how cool. Like these are the feel good stories we need in sports and hockey. Like this is like, especially hockey, which is like super racist and fucky. Like these sorts of things are really cool. And like, it's super cool. I was thrilled when I read about it, and like, it was awesome to see like hockey Twitter just be like, bloop, 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 bloop. And like all of a sudden our Twitter feed was like all the same posts. I was like, what's going on here? Oh crap. Like this is
wild human interest story.
This is amazing. Yeah. Like it's so cool to see this, and you know, kudos to everybody involved for like, just kind of like rewarding good humanity.
It's been good to feel the, aww.
Yeah. In a world of like Joe Manchin's, like we got to feel like this, we got to feel good for, you know, like several seconds. And that was kind of nice. I've just realized that I have like my hand on my chest while I've been talking this whole time. And I'm like, I'm not having a heart attack, just in case. I'm just like rubbing the warmies into me.
Yeah, I can tell. Had me scared there for a bit, but you know.
Speaking of warmies,
you weren't quite to the heart attack, and you weren't to the choking.
I'm
so,
speaking of warmies, women's hockey. The PHF has been off for a couple of weeks because of the holidays. If you haven't been watching, shame on you. For one, the results are super lopsided right now because like the Buffalo Buttes have played 5 games and Connecticut's played 10. So
they're having the same problems that the NHL have.
Yeah. So like the standings kind of don't mean a whole lot right now.
It's all about points percentage these days.
Yeah. At the same time, Buffalo only has 2 points in those 5 games. So, you know, like whatever. But if you haven't been watching, outside of one bad weekend, Toronto has been absolutely dominant, and they've just been like merkin fools, if we want to go with our video game lingo. The Connecticut Whale decided to play defense the last weekend they played, and it was
generally a good decision.
It was like, oh, so this is what they can be. Oh no.
Turns out defense can be hard, but when you figure it out, it makes a difference.
It turns out defense also wins championships. So this season has been a real wild ride. Like Minnesota's bad all of a sudden.
Yeah, I've been pretty sad about that. Amanda Levier and the Loon Pads, the amazing sequel to the Fish Pads, did not make the All-Star game this time around. And it's kind of crazy that they have selected players for an All-Star showcase without the
Beats having played 5 games.
Yeah. They probably like haven't seen half the players in the league play, but you know, there is an all-star roster, and unfortunately the Loon Pads are not on it this year. Bit sad to see, but you know, everybody deserves what they got in terms of like statistics. Like the goalies that were chosen were Elaine Shuley, Abby Ives, and Katie Burt, like the 3 best performing goalies in the league. Like they just went straight stats, and hard not to do that in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when some teams have played half the games of others.
Exactly.
I think like the great thing about the PHF is, or not the great thing, one of the great things is that, you know, you get to watch this extremely high level of women's hockey week in and week out. Like that's not me taking away from the PWHPA, which we're going to talk about here in a second.
We just don't see it as often.
Yeah. I mean, it like pops up and you're like, it's literally a hockey pop-up. Like it shows up in Calgary, and then it shows up in St. Louis, and then it shows up in New York, and just you don't know when it's going to come. And
it's just like in a warehouse and like in like, you know, parking garages and.
Yeah, and like I mean, I think we're gonna see
drives with trucks in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we're gonna see it shut down for a while with the Olympics, because many of the players who play in the PWHPA are Olympians or Olympic hopefuls. So the professional women's hockey is not abstaining from the Olympics,
right? And because their national team duties are kind of the higher level to their professional team duties at this point. Unfortunately, the PHF. Players Association hired a new director, which has been heralded as, you know, a big step in the right direction. She steps in in the middle of this kind of crazy COVID year and kind of attempts to bring these women together and in what is a tough position for women's hockey between the PHF and the PWHPA, kind of cutting all the player differences between them. Alex Sinatra joins PHF Players Association, and she's got her work cut out for her. She's going to, in the coming years, push for better pay, bigger league, and try and navigate the kind of complicated free agent pool between the PHF and the PWHPA that's not exactly been smooth sailing if you reference the words of Digit Murphy and some of the other people that have been involved in trying to recruit players for these teams.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about Alex Sinatra is that they created their own consulting firm that helps women and minorities in sports industries grow their business. And that was kind of what led Sinatra into this position. I'm quoting ESPN and I think a Forbes article at this point, but they talked about how Mallory Suliotis, who plays for the Pride, met Alex Sinatra and said, "Hey, you might want to think about this job for our Players Association because we need help. Mm-hmm. And also you seem legit." And because of that, that was kind of how the seed was planted for Alex to take over this role. Obviously, Anya Packer is the outgoing exec for the PHFPA. I think it's really great to see somebody outside of hockey come into this role. Mm-hmm. And Alex Sinatra admittedly has no hockey background whatsoever. I don't think that's important.
And it may actually be a benefit.
Yeah, I think what's important is having somebody who has the players and the women at the forefront of their mind at all times. And in this regard, you have somebody who can, who has this law background, who has this, this background in sports, but not necessarily hockey, fighting for you and advocating for you. And, as much as I hate lawyers, having them represent you when you're trying to demand better wages and demand better playing conditions and all that is pretty fucking important. So
yeah, she is a lawyer, and she's written for the USA Today, NFL Wire. She's worked for a professional soccer team and her own consulting firm. She's got a pretty impressive resume so far. So, it's pretty cool to see her hired, and she seems like she's coming in with a ton of credentials. So, hopefully she does everything that they need and more.
One of the biggest things that Alex Sinatra said coming in was that she hopes to speak with the PWHPA as much as possible and to kind of start bridging that gap, which after the Digit Murphy debacle that we talked about in our last episode, that was 6 years ago, is extremely important in bridging that gap between the needs and the issues of women's hockey in general and women's hockey players in general. So I think this is a really significant hire as long as she's being genuine about that calling. It is important to note that the PHF women are technically not unionized. So there is talk about unionizing in the future and using their strength as, collective bargaining. But when is it right to unionize? When is it right to, use collective bargaining as a means to, gaining a larger stake in the game, getting better pay, etc. I think Alex Sinatra has said all of the right things thus far.
Yeah, she looks like an amazing hire on paper.
Yeah, said all the right things. We'll see what happens with it. I think Evan and I are on the same table where we really hope for the PWHPA and the PHF to combine into one women's superpower hockey league. Mm-hmm. And expand into, however many teams that incorporates.
And it might take an outsider to kind of heal the divide and do that.
Yeah. And so if this is the first step towards that, then this is a, to quote Hook, bangarang hire. I'm really excited about the potential here. Obviously, potential needs to turn into action, and action needs to turn into results. But this is a great step in that process. And I'm really excited about where we might be going from here.
Same. In other interesting women's hockey news, the PWHPA and Team Canada's defenseman Brigette Lacquette became the first Indigenous woman to scout for an NHL team when she was recently hired by the Chicago Blackhawks to scout current draftees in the kind of Canadian region of the WHL. So she'll kind of keep tabs on all of the various draftees that are playing for the WHL teams in the, against our Portland Winterhawks. Yeah, so she'll get to, enjoy such sunny environs as Kamloops and Kelowna and Victoria and Winnipeg, Edmonton, all of those good places. She was actually the first First Nations woman to play hockey for both the Team Canada in the Winter Olympics, but also her alma mater, University of Minnesota Duluth. And she's suited up for Team Canada starting at the U18 level and has gotten 3 world championships under her belt for Team Canada, taking home gold when she was U18, and then since 2 silvers and a bronze. Actually, her stick from that 2018 Olympics has been displayed in a diversity exhibit at the Hockey Hall of Fame. And she's super heavily involved with a nonprofit called Classroom Champions, which provides teaching and mentorship in social and emotional learning, kind of, teaching kids how to navigate the world around them for ages K through 8. Really interesting story. It's nice to see the Blackhawks, hire Indigenous people to kind of make
despite their
make an attempt to kind of,
despite their insignia being mocking of Indigenous people. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good step in the right direction for a franchise, which needs a lot of good steps. And
and they've made some good PR moves in the wake of the Stan Bowman, Brad Aldrich debacle. But hard to not see this somehow related to that.
But at the same time,
it's a good
gives
move.
A fuck?
Yeah,
This is awesome. Do we need to kind of color in that language? Yes, because shitty things have happened. But
because of who has made the hiring. It's not her at all.
If St. Louis was making this hiring, we wouldn't be talking about this at all. But It's the Blackhawks who have, offended the world in the last 2 years.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Whether or not this is at all results of a PR move,
I don't care.
Exactly.
It's awesome. Kudos to Brigette for getting this job. It's obviously well-deserved. The work that they have put in to grow hockey, both in their own community and in general, is incredible.
Yeah, she's scouted now for several different organizations. She's coming in very highly qualified. It's just good to see more women getting hired into front offices in the NHL. And, kudos to the Blackhawks for making this decision. Christmas is over. New Year's is past. But for Boston fans, there's maybe one last present that's hidden behind the tree, like a Red Ryder BB gun.
What is the Finnish equivalent to a Red Ryder BB gun?
It's not
it's
meatballs.
A real gun.
It's the goalie. He's coming back.
It's the gun that fended off the Soviets. Tuuka Rask on the verge of coming back for Boston.
He's been skating illicitly for the team while not under contract.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. Oh, I just happened to be here today. I guess I'll just skate around a bit. Oh, Linus Ullmark happens to be a little under the weather today. I guess I'll just fill in as your backup goalie. Hey. Tuuka is one of the best goalies of his generation. He's won a cup. He's gotten Boston to the verge of several other cups.
Yeah, he earned himself some time to deal with some professional burnout.
Yeah, well, and also a hip surgery. Like,
right.
I'm really excited. He seems like one of the genuinely like good folks in the NHL. Like
in spite of having to deal with Boston media for his whole career.
Yeah, he dropped the fuck out of the bubble a couple years ago because he was worried about his family and like people shit on him. And it's like, the dude is doing like adult human things. Like, leave him alone.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing responsible adult things. He doesn't want to get his young kids COVID. Like, good for him.
And notably, the team has kind of handled him with relative kid gloves, and they're about to be rewarded for it and get their star goalie back, presumably healthy. You know, hopefully he's not going to pull a Ben Bishop and do one game or half a game in Providence.
Give up 9 goals and half a period in Providence and be like, well, this is over. Tuuka will probably be fine. He did have hip surgery in the offseason.
In a contract year. And so, I mean, that's part of the reason for this kind of weird extended layoff. Like, everyone knew that Tuuka was coming back to the Bruins at some point.
He himself said, I will not play for anybody but the Bruins. And it was like, oh, okay. So we're Calgary. We're just going to leave you alone then. Like, you know, it'll be fun to see him back. I really enjoy the way Tuuka plays the game. I've always kind of enjoyed him. He was one of my favorite players on those Bruins teams. And it'll be nice to see him back in the swing of things. So
I guarantee you other teams like kick the tires and like, can we trade for or sign Tuuka Rask? And like, I bet Boston like sent Leonardo DiCaprio from The Departed to like beat up GMs just to keep Tuuka Rask unsigned.
What happened was Tuuka just waved the Dikembe Mutombo finger and was like, All right, folks. I think that's it for us this week. Thank you for bearing with us while we, enjoyed our holidays instead of bringing the podcast to you. We're back. We are COVID free, despite having both flown across the country and to the Midwest, where COVID is rampant. But thank you so much for bearing with us. Thank you for listening. If you are looking to find us anywhere else on the internets, you can find us at handsomehockey.com, Handsome Hockey Podcast on Instagram, at Handsome Hockey on Twitter, or handsomehockeypod@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page where we will probably start putting things again.
Now that there's like hockey again, we can, post content.
Yeah, that's fun.
And obviously you're listening to us somewhere, but we are on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Red Circle, YouTube, and I don't know, maybe for the children's TikTok at some point.
No.
Suckers.
All right. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. This has been episode 52 of the Handsome Hockey Podcast from Portland, Oregon. We love you. We miss you. Stay handsome, everybody.
Restez beau, tout le monde.